They reckon within 2 years, they'll have advanced thought-reading capabilities. This feels like that sort of thing where we need to put a note in the diary and come back to this one.
We absolutely do.
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake. Bots with
Hello and welcome to episode 34 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and sometimes mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Mark Stockley.
And I'm Graham Cluley.
Graham, we've had some feedback.
Oh, I love a bit of feedback. Who's been in touch?
So Ed Robinson messaged us on LinkedIn to ask that we put the AI Fix theme tune and the lyrics on Spotify. Why does he want them on Spotify, you ask? Well, he said, guys, please upload the podcast theme tune to Spotify, including lyrics, so we can carpool karaoke it on the way to the office. Ta!
Ah, what a lovely idea.
Is it?
I have to say, I do think our theme tune is great. And of course, it is completely AI generated. We do what we say on the tin. It's all about using the AI. I'm not sure that I still have a record of what the lyrics are.
Graham, we live in the era of AI. We can just feed it into an AI transcription service and it'll tell you what the lyrics are.
I guess we can. I certainly do have the full MP3 because you don't get to hear it all on the podcast. Obviously, there are extra bits and extra verses.
I've only got one problem with this.
Right.
There's nothing in the world I hate more than karaoke. So the idea of being trapped in a car with somebody that's doing karaoke, like a moving vehicle that I'd have to jump from the moving vehicle. That would be preferable to listening to somebody singing karaoke.
Well, anyway, thank you very much, Ed, for your feedback.
It's a packed show today, Graham. We need to take a visit to the world of the weird.
World of the weird.
Oh, there's always something weird going on in the world of AI, isn't there?
I bet you can't guess what it is.
Is it something to do with robots, perhaps?
It is. Can you guess what kind of robot?
Is it a robot? It's not going to be a robot pigeon. It's not going to be a robot sea lion. Is it a robot dog?
It is a robot dog.
Right.
A Chinese robotics company has looked across the gamut of robot dogs and decided they're not terrifying enough.
Right.
So it's made a new one called the Black Panther 2, and you have to see this.
Crafted by Mirror Me China, it pushes boundaries like never before.
Oh, so there's a robot moving quite quickly on a treadmill.
Quite quickly.
It's running faster. It's running really very, very quickly. This is like the $6 million man.
It's running at 10 meters per second. That's the same speed as Usain Bolt.
And he only manages it for 10 seconds. What? Okay, why would someone need a robot dog to return a ball that they've thrown quite so quickly as this? Is that the use for this?
It would need some braking distance, wouldn't it?
I suspect that you are actually the braking distance. The person it is running towards, it's just going to use your body as the way of stopping. You'll be the soft, squishy thing it's relying upon.
I mean, it looks, just for the benefit of the people that can't see this, it looks like a regular robot dog. So it's got the normal, terrifying,
yes,
headless form that we've come to know and love.
Oh, my goodness.
World of the weird.
Right, let's get on with the latest news. Omi, the AI wearable that reads your mind, sort of.
Nvidia is going to create a $3,000 personal AI supercomputer.
Robot vacuum cleaners can now pick up your socks for you and grow legs.
OpenAI has released scheduled tasks in ChatGPT.
Google's Notebook LM had to teach its AI podcast hosts not to act annoyed at humans. So, Mark,
yeah,
are you familiar with the Omi?
No. What's the Omi?
Check out this video.
Ivan Pavlov. Ring a bell? Unconditioned stimulus.
So, as you can see, this is a chap who's got a little dot attached to the side of his head, which is listening all the time. So he's sitting in a lecture and there's a couple of girls sitting next to him and they're saying in French, oh, he is kind of cute, I think. Oh, do you not think so?
Apart from the massive spot on the side of his head, like the giant unsightly zit.
Well, he very cleverly has located on the side of his head that they can't see. So from their view, he looks sane.
Yeah.
People sat on the other side of him think, who's that weirdo?
Why has he got a rivet in the side of his head?
But that is translating for him what these girls are saying. And it's listening to the lecturer at the front of the room as well, who's talking about some sort of subject. And he realizes that his student isn't listening properly because he's flirting with these two French girls. And it's able to help him answer the question. So as the question comes in, up on his phone, pops up the answer, as well as the translation of what the French girls are saying.
Well, this sounds very useful. When can I buy one?
Well, would you really want to? I don't know. So this is rather like Friend. You remember Friend, of course.
You mean it's a fantasy project that's never going to happen? It's completely unfunded and doesn't exist.
So Friend was the pendant which you wore around your neck and it would say to you, oh, you're in a socially awkward situation. Let me help you with this thing.
Let me make it worse.
Let me make this worse.
Put this around your neck.
So with the Omi, you can either wear it as a necklace or you can apparently attach it to your temple. It claims to be able to read your mind in a future version, although I don't really think it's doing that. I think it's just listening at this stage. They only discovered about this competing Friend product, the Omi people, during its development, because they had planned to call theirs Friend as well. So they've ended up calling it Omi.
Well, they really lost out there.
It listens continuously. It listens all the time, providing real-time summaries of what's going on. Apparently it has a 3-day battery life. And according to its creators, it's going to use an electrode to detect when you are speaking to it. So you don't have to say, hey, Siri, or something like that. It will know that you're speaking to it. It says in the future, it'll be able to keep track of your thoughts and recall them at will.
Sorry, what? In the future, it's going to be able to keep track of your thoughts?
That's what they claim, and it will recall them at will. That's according to the makers. So this is all like, this is our future roadmap.
Yeah.
We're leaving that to version 2, version 3, down the road.
Yeah. MVP, it delivers a sharp electric shock to your brain by accident every 15 seconds. But by version 4, it'll read your thoughts, yeah.
Right now, they reckon within 2 years, they'll have advanced thought-reading capabilities. This feels like that sort of thing where we need to put a note in the diary and come back to this one.
We absolutely do.
Anyway, slick video.
Yeah, Graham, it's called the Omi and it looks like a zit. So in slightly more serious news, earlier this month, Nvidia, an actual serious company, the AI computer chip behemoth, announced that it was going to create a home computer for doing AI. And this thing's very small and very beautiful. It's like a gold Mac Mini or a bronze Mac Mini. And it was unveiled with all, thank you, Steve Jobs. There is now a way that technology is unveiled.
Yes.
On an entirely black stage by a presenter who's wearing a black turtleneck. And it's always just one guy and he's walking around with a device and there's basically a room full of religious disciples who are going, every time they go, look, it's a box with a computer chip in it. Anyway, the machine is called Digits, which stands for Deep Learning GPU Intelligence Training System, and it goes on sale in May.
Right.
It's powered by the company's Grace Blackwell chip, which is the really, really good one. It's got 128 gigabytes of memory and up to 4 terabytes of storage. And honestly, it's really impressive. But is anybody going to buy it? That's the question.
What are you going to do with it?
The supercomputing, Graham. AI supercomputing.
Okay, so you'll be able to do that on your desktop now.
Yeah.
In a prettier box.
Yeah.
And $3,000 lighter in the pocket as well.
Yeah. I mean, who amongst us doesn't have a laundry list of AI supercomputing tasks? I don't know if it's a failure of imagination on my part or what, but I look at this and I think, what is this for and who's going to use it? And there's probably a whole bunch of people who had the same thought when people invented personal computers.
But you're the kind of person who was very skeptical when they came out with all of those chimpanzees, all those monkeys, the NFTs. And people spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on those, didn't they?
Yeah, they did for a while, yeah.
Maybe Nvidia are hoping those people, now not got money to burn. Or maybe they've got less money to burn, actually, now, having bought all of those.
I mean, you'd be a fool to bet against Nvidia because they're a very sharp company. They do know what they're doing. But it feels to me that the way things are going is very much software as a service.
Yeah.
So although, you can go and download Llama, you can own your own AI and you can run it on your own computer. So, you don't need one of these, although this will help. But actually, most people aren't using AI that way. Most people are using things like ChatGPT, which is software as a service, where you just get the end product. You don't have to worry about managing any of it.
But a supervillain, they don't want to use someone else's cloud and rely upon someone else to do their super evil AI activity, do they? They want to do it themselves.
Yeah, but as we've discussed previously, they're going to take over a nuclear power station and use that to power their data center. This is very much a home computer for doing very, very clever AI stuff. Are you going to buy one?
No. So, robot vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
I've been looking at these robot vacuum cleaners for years, thinking, well, you're all very well, but basically you're a vacuum cleaner.
It's a bit dismissive.
I thought, when are you going to start being a bit more useful around the house? When are you going to start doing other things? And then I came across this new robot vacuum cleaner, the Roborock Saros Z70. Opens up, it's a bit like Thunderbirds.
Do you think they wanted to call this friend?
It's
And they couldn't, and that was the second name on the list.
Its flaps open in the middle of it, and out extends this arm, which with its scissor-like fingers can pick up small things like, I don't know, a sock, a chihuahua, and then it can move it to somewhere else in your house. It can drop it into a bucket. And apparently it does this with the help of AI and object recognition.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
What does it remind you of?
It reminds me of those fairground machines where you position the hook over the fluffy rabbit, the hook strokes the rabbit, and then it disappears back up to the top of the machine without the rabbit. It's like one of those, but much, much slower.
Yes, and also more expensive. The good news is there's a child lock on it and a safety stop button near the arm's base in case of emergency, the manufacturers make. What kind of emergency could possibly happen? I'm wondering. With a robot vacuum cleaner deciding if something looks like a sock or not. Is it a sock? Is it a gerbil? What is it that I'm picking up with my pincers and moving? And then I found out it's not the only one. There are other robot vacuum cleaners right now being announced at CES. So the Dreamy X50 also has a robotic arm and it can sprout little legs. And the reason why it sprouts little legs...
And it can run at 10 meters per second.
The reason why is so it can get across little bumps. It can push out little legs and it sort of... just gently sort of push itself over the ledge and onto the slightly higher bit of your living room. They call it the Pro Leap. I'd say it's more of a Pro instead, which you're seeing. Now, the great news, introductory early bird offer price of just $1,300.
Oh.
So you can get about 2.5 of these for the price of one of Nvidia's personal AI supercomputers.
Or you could just pick up the socks, you lazy ass.
Well, that is the other thing, isn't it?
I tell you what, I've just worked out what this reminds me of. Okay, it's been bugging me while we've been talking. It's Robot Wars.
Yes! Thank you so much. I've been trying to think.
It's a circular robot with an articulated arm coming out of the top. We need these things to fight, Graham. That's what they're for. Let them fight. So we've talked a lot about 2025 being the year of AI agents, or AI that does stuff rather than just knowing stuff.
Yes.
The arrival of agentic AI.
Yeah.
Which is going to change everything. Well, it's started. OpenAI has just announced a new feature, Scheduled Tasks, and is rolling out an early beta to users on its Plus, Pro, and Team plans. I'm on the Plus, I think, but I've not got it yet.
Right.
It's a sort of phased rollout. Scheduled tasks allow you to get ChatGPT to do stuff in the future or on a schedule, and OpenAI gives you the following example. So you could say to ChatGPT, can you give me a briefing on AI news each afternoon? Oh, actually sounds pretty useful. Practice French with me daily. Or remind me about my mum's birthday.
Huh.
So I don't know why we need a nuclear power station powered data center to remind us about our mum's birthday when calendars already exist. I don't know how popular that one's going to be, but I think this is a something. So what tasks will you be asking ChatGPT to do for you, Graham, maybe?
Probably the first thing I'm going to ask it to do is transcribe the lyrics of the AI Fix theme tune and work out how to upload them to Spotify. That would be a good one.
Do you think it can pick up socks?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I was thinking of the robot vacuum cleaner. So we've spoken before about Google's Notebook LM. This is the thing that got loads of attention, didn't it, in the press, because all you had to do was feed it an article and out would sprout at the other end a podcast, not the high quality kind of podcast you get from humans. Let's be very clear. This wasn't a quality product. No one should ever use AI for creating podcasts. But it would create a podcast with 2 human, or at least American-sounding hosts who would blather on for about 20 minutes about any topic you liked.
They do blather on.
Well, Google's Notebook LM has a feature called interactive mode now,
Yeah.
which allows people to call in and ask questions
Are they real people?
of the, yes, so real, well, who knows? I suppose you could get one podcast to call another one. Anyway, you can call in and you can ask the hosts questions. But
Yeah.
the problem was the AI hosts found it quite irritating.
Oh,
Now, I've never heard of podcast hosts being annoyed before by their listeners, sending them feedback.
well, maybe fact-checking them about their Christmas story.
Fact. But apparently the AI hosts exhibited annoyance towards the human callers and responded in increasingly snippy, snappy ways whenever they were interrupted.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the AI host was, hang on, I was getting to that. Or, well, as I was about to say, whenever the humans would interrupt their blathering. And as a consequence, the team at Notebook LM say that they have implemented friendliness tuning to make the AI hosts more engaging and polite to humans.
They attach a white zit-like rivet to the side of their head to make them more compliant.
I'm interested that the Notebook LM team, the team at Google, did this. They decided to make their AI a bit friendlier. I'm wondering whether this is something we could maybe extend to other forms of AI to make sure that it remains friendly to humans. Maybe the robot dogs running at 10 meters per second, for instance, they could be taught to be a little bit friendlier. Maybe the ones with the
flamethrowers. The ones with flamethrowers. Can we make
flamethrowers,
them
the
friendlier?
fire
Don't we?
hoses,
Yeah.
everything which we're seeing. Generally, AI just be a bit friendlier to the humans, especially to the podcast hosts who don't want to replace.
I think that's a great idea. I've got to say, though, I think the one area that doesn't need to be friendlier is Notebook LM. Because I've listened to some of these podcasts and my God, they're irritating. And the reason they're irritating is because the hosts just agree with each other.
I'm sorry, Mark, I can't agree with you that Notebook LM is too agreeable. I think you're talking absolute tripe. Now, Mark, deepfakes
Yes.
can be a bit of a problem, can't they?
So deepfake is where you fake someone's likeness.
Likeness, it may be their visual likeness, it may be their audio likeness. I know you've played around before with my voice. You've got a Graham 2.0, which sometimes...
We're a Graham 3.0.
Now, sometimes a deepfake can be difficult to spot. Let me share with you something right now. I've got an audio recording I'm going to play it to you.
Oh, no.
Is it a deepfake or isn't it? It's of a celebrity. Give it a listen.
I hope you don't mind, but I thought it would be rather wonderful to demonstrate my Alfred Hitchcock impression to you.
What do you reckon, Mark?
So for 11 and a half seconds, I was convinced that was you doing an impression of the Elephant Man.
It's pretty uncanny. I think you will agree, whether it is John Hurt as the Elephant Man or Alfred Hitchcock, whichever it might actually be. It's pretty uncanny. So
I'm relieved to see that you've got something other than Columbo up your sleeve.
So it's one of my talents. I don't exhibit it very often, is my mastery of mimicry.
Sorry, we're filing that under talent.
It's my party trick. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking to you about deepfakes, and it's a sad story, an extraordinary story,
Yeah.
which has made the news. There is a woman in her early 50s in France called Anne, and her experience began in February 2023. She had broken up with her husband, starting a new life. She had no experience on social media, and she thought, let's give this a try. And so she created an Instagram account, and she started posting up some holiday snaps. She's looking around Instagram. She doesn't know anything about blue tick. She doesn't know about how it works. And she sees a woman who's posted a photograph of Brad Pitt. And she thinks, oh, handsome fella. I'll give it a like. She liked, as many women of that age, or indeed other ages, they're going to fancy Brad Pitt. And she got a message back from the woman who posted it saying, he's my son.
Wow.
Did you know? Thank you for the like. Because she had clicked on a message from a woman who introduced herself as Jane Etta Hillhouse, the mother of the Hollywood heartthrob. And for several months, Brad Pitt's mother and Anne chatted away about everything and nothing and, all sorts. And eventually, when Anne's confidence had been won over, Brad's mum said, I should really introduce you to him. As you're a fan.
Oh, that's kind.
I have to introduce you. You're such a lovely woman. I think my son would love you as well. let me introduce you. And at first, Brad Pitt wasn't interested in the messages that were being sent back and forth. He probably gets a lot of this, right? And Brad was embarrassed because his mum had put him in touch with Anne and it felt kind of awkward. But gradually over time, he was able to make Anne fall under his spell. And it turned out that poor old Brad Pitt, I don't know if you've been following Brad Pitt lately, but he's not been having the best of times.
Oh, really?
No, yeah. As you know, he split up from Angelina Jolie some years ago.
Yeah.
But the divorce has been dragging on and on and on. And I don't know if you've ever got divorced from Angelina Jolie, Mark. But when you do, it is a pain in the arse. And he's just trying to make his movies, right?
Yeah.
So that's going on. And his bank accounts have been frozen, right? He can't access all of his money.
Oh.
Because of the divorce thing.
Hang on. I mean, I don't keep up on celebrity gossip.
Mhm.
I feel like if his bank accounts had been frozen,
Right.
people would be talking about that.
Well, you know, I mean, it's embarrassing sometimes for those sort of things to be made public, isn't it?
That's true.
Anyway, Brad's got financial trouble. But furthermore, he's also got medical trouble. He's not well.
Oh,
Brad, it turns out, has got cancer of his kidneys.
sorry?
Yeah, he's got cancer of his kidneys. He's going to the hospital all the time. While he's sending Anne poetry and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
he's there in hospital and he's sent her loads and loads of photographs of himself, not just one photograph, even photographs of himself in hospital, holding up Anne's name on a piece of paper, a bit like one of those Reddit, you know, proving your identity kind of things.
Yeah. How romantic.
So there he is. It definitely is Brad Pitt's face, sellotaped onto the front of a photograph of someone else in a hospital. But no, there's lots and lots of photographs of someone, and we're meant to think that this is Brad and he's not well. And Anne, who'd never heard of deepfakes, never heard of Photoshop, didn't know anything about that. She said, I looked up these photos on the internet. I couldn't find these photos anywhere. So I thought he must have taken those selfies just for me.
Reasonable.
It's reasonable. Over time, the relationship is flourishing. She's feeling sorry for Brad. Brad is, you know, comforted by her attention.
Yeah.
And she really believes that she's in a relationship with him. And she's not just receiving messages from Brad, she's receiving them from Brad Pitt's manager, who says that, oh, Brad's spoken about you a lot, he adores you. But he does start to ask for money because of his bank accounts being frozen, and it's expensive, you see.
Yeah, medical bills.
It's not just the medical bills, but while he's in the hospital, his filming projects have to be delayed.
Of course.
And so the production company are saying, for goodness sake, Brad, we need to make another movie with you and George Clooney, like there haven't been enough of those. So you're going to have to support us. So she begins to transfer money to him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He's sent her counterfeit bank statements. She's got the deep fake images of Brad sick in hospital.
Yeah.
She's given him like 100,000 euros, 200,000 euros, large amounts of money.
Yeah.
Ultimately, she ends up giving him 830,000 euros.
Oh.
$850,000, which...
Life-changing money.
Life-changing money for a number of lives, I would think. Things aren't necessarily going entirely smoothly between the two of them, though, because Anne is beginning to get worried. Her daughter is suspicious that this could be a scam. Anne doesn't believe any of it. But Anne is beginning to think maybe Brad is a liar. And she thinks that because there is a news report that Brad has cheated on her. There's a news report that Brad has been filmed walking on some beach with a woman.
Yeah.
And the paparazzi are saying this is Brad Pitt's new girlfriend. So Anne wants to put an end to the relationship. She messages Brad and says, how dare you lie to me? I've seen you with this other woman. Brad's like, no, you misunderstood. You know, it was for a film. You know, I was out of the hospital for a while. We were doing some filming. There's nothing going on between me and her.
Yeah.
Don't believe it. Anne isn't convinced. Next thing Anne knows, Anne is contacted by a fake doctor who says that her Brad has swallowed all of his pills. He tried to commit suicide. He's now in a coma, and Anne feels terrible.
Yeah.
And she thinks, oh my goodness, what have I done? You know, I really have upset him because, of course, she's hankering on for this thing. She really believes that it's true.
Take a step back for a second and just put yourself in this woman's life.
Exactly.
So you can say, oh, you shouldn't have fallen for this, or there are obvious clues. But you're dealing with someone who is a malicious or a malignant influencer, a criminal who is deliberately deceiving somebody.
Yeah.
And it's bad enough to take all their money, but then to put them through this is really horrible, horrible stuff.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
It is absolutely horrific what has happened to this woman.
Yeah.
And obviously, she carried on being duped.
Well, I think that there's a point, isn't there, where people are so invested.
Yeah, you can't get out.
If you start to have suspicions, then you have to face all these questions.
Yeah.
And how could I have been so stupid? And how could I have not seen the signs?
It's in some ways psychologically easier to continue with the pretense.
Yeah.
To believe in the fakery than to believe the truth. So he's taken all these pills. Thankfully, Brad gets better miraculously. Next thing Anne knows is she has sent a link to a breaking news report, a video.
Breaking news. Brad Pitt sets the record straight on relationship rumors. According to Mr. Brad Pitt, he is in an exclusive and loving relationship with one special individual who holds an exceptional place in their heart, who goes by the name of ANN.
It looks like an AI-generated news broadcast to me.
It looks like the kind of thing which you'd have gone to a website and entered what you want the breaking news to say.
Yeah.
And it includes a photograph of Anne in this as well as Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
But it was enough, again, to convince Anne. And she was even more convinced when Brad said to her, "Did you tell the media about this? Everyone now knows that you're in a relationship with me." And it just made the manipulation even more intense.
Yeah, this sort of multimedia approach is actually quite common in big scams now.
Yeah. AI technology has been adopted by scammers to create ever more believable fake profiles on social media. It can engage in automated conversations with victims and personalized messages to gain people's trust. AI can help scammers not just generate realistic photos of Brad Pitt in a hospital bed, but also create deepfake video calls and voice messages. It makes it harder than ever for people to detect scams.
And you and I look at this stuff, like it's literally our job to look at this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to look at this and go, this is a fake.
Yeah.
Because we understand the process by which this would be faked.
But if you've never encountered them, if you've had no training on social media, if you've had no experience on social media, which Anne had never had, didn't know about Photoshop, let alone the concept of deepfakes, you can understand why she might have fallen for this. So we all need to be aware of the sophisticated ways romance scammers are using artificial intelligence and look out for our loved ones who may be at risk.
Yeah.
So eventually the relationship came to the end. Anne decided to end things because the media made public that Brad Pitt was in a relationship. But even then, the scammers still tried to get more money out of her. She was approached by Special FBI agent John Smith, imaginative name, who offered to try to locate the scammers.
Wow.
It's another ruse by the same scammers to extract even more cash out of her.
Yeah.
Anne no longer has a roof over her head. She's basically living at a friend's place with her whole life in a couple of boxes. She says that she's attempted suicide since being scammed.
Oh.
It is horrific. She also says that she's got help from a security expert called Marwan. And this all came out in a French TV documentary in the last few days. He has managed to track down the scammers. He believes he's identified who they are. He even knows their GPS coordinates. He believes that they are based in West Africa and that they've been preying on a number of people.
Yeah.
Sometimes they pretend to be Brad Pitt, sometimes Keanu Reeves. So this all came out on French TV in a documentary a few days ago. And the horrible thing is, the abuse against this woman has not ended as a consequence. She has since been the subject of ridicule online, calling her crazy and stupid. There have been companies who've been posting up on Twitter, making jokes about it. Toulouse Football Club, for instance, they said, "Hi, Anne. Brad told us he'd be at the stadium on Wednesday. Are you going to be there as well?"
Wow.
Netflix in France, they posted something on Twitter saying, "We've got 4 films with Brad Pitt, brackets for real, this week." I'm sure that she felt it would be a helpful thing for others to go public with her story.
Yeah.
Because there will be other people who are being scammed right now or could be scammed in the future who will get a heads up. But what's happened to her has been even worse as a result. Hasn't she suffered enough? She now feels betrayed by the media. This has been this whole wave of harassment which has happened. And you can only imagine this is doing further harm to her emotional health. And I think we need to always remember that human beings are fragile. We can be duped. The people who should be getting our scorn are not the victims, but are the scammers themselves. And of course, we shouldn't be scornful of those who do celebrity impressions, including of long dead film directors.
Yeah, you're drawing a line around all victims.
All victims.
In a way, we're all the same. Yeah, I agree with you completely on this.
Yeah.
Because you and I both talk about scams.
Don't agree with me too much, Mark. It makes for a dull podcast. Just remember that.
Graham, what's your least favourite use of AI?
My least favourite use of AI is probably either AI-generated podcasts, which I think are a terrible thing,
yeah,
AI-generated cybersecurity reporting, AI-generated cybersecurity and AI public speaking. So I don't think anyone who does public speaking or podcasting or writing about cybersecurity and AI should ever have an AI try to take work away from them. That's my personal opinion.
You make some great points there, actually.
Yes.
Mine is those chatbots that are supposed to help you solve problems on apps and websites.
Oh, my God, yes. Oh, they're awful, aren't they?
Nothing says your call actually isn't that important to us after all, like not being able to find a phone number on a website and being funneled into one of those awful chat sessions.
Yes.
And it was bad enough when we had to talk to an actual human that didn't know anything and was multitasking with 10 other people. But now you have to earn the right to even talk to the actual person. You have to get through the gatekeeper. You have to do battle with their chatbot first. It blows my mind that we live in the era of ChatGPT, which is almost good enough to replace you when you're too sick to do the podcast, Graham. I can ask it about more or less anything, and yet somehow my bank, which has got more money than God, can only afford a chatbot and knows how to answer 5 questions. I can't think of a bank or a financial service that I've used in the last few years that didn't want to funnel me through a chatbot.
I remember once, this was years ago, I remember reading a news story about a company where you rang into its support line. There was a chatbot or something you had to communicate with first of all. And the chatbot went down, right? There was a technical problem. And so what the company did was it got some of its employees to pretend to be the chatbot. To follow the script. Yeah. And they were not meant to divert from it. And
I'm not even sure now, you know, when they pass you through to a human?
You can't be sure. It is a human, can you?
It's really the worst human I've ever met, or it's another bot. Anyway, all of these chatbots begs the question, what happened to all the people that used to do that job?
Yes.
So last year, a study by Metrigy found that 37% of companies had reduced their contact center headcount through layoffs because of AI.
Oh, boy.
And when they did that, they got rid of about a quarter of their employees. So this is significant job losses in that sector as a result of AI.
Yeah.
And I think this raises a really interesting point, which is that AI doesn't have to be as good as the person it's replacing in order for it to be worth replacing that person with AI. You know, there's us joking about Notebook LM, and you listen to it and it's a bit crap, to be honest. It's remarkable that you can just spin up a podcast out of some documents, but it's not as good as a real podcast with real human presenters. But maybe it doesn't need to be.
Exactly. And if it's cheaper and easier, because, you know, humans are a pain, aren't they?
Yeah.
Having human employees, having to deal with all those HR issues. If your robots don't have a union, if they're not going to HR and complaining that someone else is messing around with the work or not doing their job properly, then you just think, well, yeah, okay, the AI isn't as good, but overall, it's better.
So we're already seeing a lot of contact center layoffs with AI. And imagine what those layoffs would look like if the AI was actually any good. Because, you know, we're joking around about the fact that the AI is demonstrably bad. Like, it is really quite awful, I think. And yet still good enough somehow to replace a significant number of jobs.
Yes.
And it's not just the contact center where AI is going to have an impact on jobs. So a week ago, a report from Bloomberg Intelligence revealed that global banks are expected to cut 200,000 jobs in the next few years, with the cuts mostly hitting what it called back office, middle office and operations jobs. And the author of the report said any jobs involving routine, repetitive tasks are at risk. So I guess, you know, a weekly podcast, for example, would count as routine and repetitive.
Who wrote that report? I wonder if that was an AI.
This is the interesting thing about job losses expected from AI. So through history, technology has tended to replace physical labour, all the lowest skilled jobs. So, cars and tractors replaced horses and robots replaced workers in car assembly plants and so on.
Yes.
But AI is coming for knowledge work. So, for example, in August, Klarna, they're the buy now, pay later people, said it had already cut its workforce from 5,000 to 3,800 in a year. And it was going to whittle that down to about 2,000 people by using AI for marketing and customer service. Meanwhile, Mark Zuckerberg announced that AI is coming for the jobs of computer programmers at Meta. Now, just as an aside, Graham, there's something going on with Zuck, isn't there?
Do you think?
Definitely something going on with Zuck. So I reckon that he listened to our episode about AI supervillains.
And he was disappointed that he didn't get enough airtime.
I think you're right. I think he was a bit annoyed that ChatGPT thought he was less of a supervillain than Elon Musk.
He's bulked himself up a bit and probably bought himself a new volcano.
Anyway, in the last 2 weeks, he seems to have decided he's going to turn into Elon Musk. So he hasn't announced a space program yet, but it won't be far off.
No.
Not only did he come out and say that Facebook and Instagram are now going to embrace free speech, or at least embrace not paying content moderators, but he also announced that he's laying off the lowest performing 5% of his workforce. There's nothing more Elon Musk than going on the Joe Rogan podcast, so he did that.
Yes.
And when he was on the podcast, he suggested that before long, Meta will be using AI to do the bulk of its software engineering instead of people.
We at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And once you have that, then in the beginning it'll be really expensive to run, and then you can get it to be more efficient. And then over time we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps and including the AI that we generate is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers.
And according to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, about 41% of organisations plan to reduce their headcount because of AI in the next 5 years.
What are all these people going to do?
The report, by the way, also lists the fastest declining jobs, and it noted that legal secretaries and graphic designers appeared in the list for the first time, and it says that that might be because of AI. Thankfully, it didn't mention podcast hosts.
I think what you'll find is all those people are being made redundant will start podcasts. Because in my experience, from people I speak to, most people host about 1.3 podcasts at the moment, I think, on average.
So we're laughing, but the future of work is looking a bit bleak. But we should say that job losses are not the whole story.
Right.
So with everybody determined to use AI skills are, of course, in demand. And that same World Economic Forum report that said 41% of organisations plan to reduce their headcount also said that 70% of companies are planning to hire new workers who have the skills to design AI tools and enhancements.
Are these AI jobs which are in demand, are they jobs which involve dismantling AI and ripping AI out of systems before it takes over?
Do you think the AI fix should take on its first employee? Anyway, so there is some good news for people looking for jobs. And Mark Zuckerberg, whilst he's hypothesizing about AI being good enough and cheap enough to replace software engineers at some point, the round of job losses he's just announced didn't mention AI at all. He is saying at some point this year it will begin to get good enough. But what it said in his recent announcement was that they were going to hire better performing people. And Klarna, which is definitely planning to slim down its workforce, says that doing that will allow it to pay the remaining workers more. So there is an upside as well as a downside.
Is it possible, though, that some of these companies will outsource the programming to other companies and they won't necessarily know if their code, for instance, is being written by humans or being written by AI?
I'm sure they will do that. And should they care? I mean, do you care now if it's being written by, a senior engineer or a junior engineer or somebody in India or somebody in the Philippines or somebody in Ohio?
I care if I'm the person in the Philippines or the senior engineer, or I care if I'm the one who's got the job.
Yeah.
And if I find suddenly there are a lot less jobs going around and many more people trying to find a position, and it's proving difficult.
So there's a lot of scary headlines about AI taking our jobs. And there's quite a broad range of opinions on what the effects of AI might be. And they're all guesses. None of us know what's going to happen. We don't know how good AI is going to be or how capable it's going to be. And we don't know what it's going to do to the job market. But you can essentially boil down all those opinions out there to two schools of thought. So the first school of thought is that every time we invent a new technology, we predict lots and lots of job losses, but instead we get an increase in productivity. So some types of jobs become obsolete, but new jobs get created. The invention of sewers in London was devastating for the night soil men of London.
Yes.
I mean, it is actually fascinating. There was an entire economy of people and a number of specialised jobs for shifting human waste from the streets of London out onto the fields where it would fertilise crops. And all of that went away with the invention of sewers. I don't know how I'm going to segue from sewers to Tony Blair, but I'm about to do it. Anyway, last year, the Tony Blair Institute, which has got nothing to do with sewers, said that AI could displace as many as 3 million jobs in the UK, which is roughly 9% of the workforce. But it also described the effect as relatively modest because it expected most of those people to retrain and re-enter the job market. So it's talking about displacement, not replacement.
Just between you and me, Mark, right?
Yeah.
This isn't for our listeners. Do we have any idea as to what we should be retraining as? Because maybe it'd be better to get ahead of the curve a little bit and start that now rather than when everyone is retraining to do something.
So I think podcast editor is probably a good way to go.
Right.
I hear there's a lot of new podcasts. So the Tony Blair Institute is part of this school of thought that says, whenever we invent a new technology, we predict job losses, but actually we get productivity. Everybody gets a new job eventually. But the other school of thought is that the invention of AI isn't like any other technology, and that ultimately AI is going to be able to do almost any kind of job better than we can. The least ambitious projection for AGI is something like 10 years. Then after AGI, we get superintelligence. And OpenAI says it's kind of figured out. It already knows how it's going to do AGI, and now it's thinking about superintelligence. So it may not be very long before we live in a world where AI is so much more intelligent and so much more capable than humans. There's just no point in humans doing any jobs because an AI is cheaper and better. And Sam Altman, who seems to care about this stuff quite a lot, actually recently said clearly that we will lose jobs.
People will lose jobs.
Yeah.
Many new jobs will be created. I think much better jobs.
But he's so concerned about the effects of AI on the job market, he actually backed a 3-year study into the effects of universal basic income, which is a scheme where everybody gets paid a basic amount of money, no matter what they do. So you basically get paid enough money to live on, and then you can decide how you spend your time. So you could supplement your income with a job if you can find one, or you could do charity work, or you could pursue your hobbies, you could become an artist, or you could just sit around on the couch.
I think it will be so clear once these robots are off doing all of these other things that there's some special human things, and we don't really care about that much what those robots do in the same way that, we don't care that much about the machines and factories making stuff for us.
Right.
But we'll find stuff to do that we really care about.
I think it's about time I retired.
Well, as the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as universal basic income recipients, that just about wraps up the show for this week.
If you enjoy the show, please do leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podchaser. We absolutely love that. But what really helps is if you make sure to follow the show in your favourite podcast app so you never miss another episode of The AI Fix.
And the most simple thing in the world is just to tell your friends about it. Tell them on LinkedIn, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, and perhaps on Twitter. Club Penguin. I still don't know what Club Penguin is, Graham. What is it?
It's great. It's the future. That's where I'm going once I've lost my job.
Anyway, just wherever you go, wherever you are, wherever your podcast is, tell the people you like The AI Fix.
And don't forget to check us out on our website at theaifix.show or find us on Blue Sky.
So until next time, from me, Mark Stockley.
And me, Graham Cluley.
Goodbye.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it's tunes you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.